Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another MAMG Let's Play. Today I'm playing a game called Narcissu. I really don't know, I know nothing about this game, but when I was researching some good games with a strong story that were relatively short, this was at the top of everybody's list, and I know nothing about it, but of course, that's never stopped me from playing a game. I didn't know what Steins Gate was when I played it. It was by your guys' recommendation, so maybe it's an underground hit and not a lot of you have heard of it, or maybe you have and you're excited. I don't know. Either way, I guess we'll find out what my reaction is going to be when we start this here. Okay, so side second. No, we need to start with the first one. Oh, there's different translations. Insanity. We always keep insanity spirit. That's a weird slogan. I don't know what that means. I guess I'll go with this one. Agilis? Voice, please. Yes. Okay. Oh. Suicide statistics? Oh, she's just gonna read that one line. Okay, whatever. Let me see here. But even so, I went to grade school normally. During summer vacation, I played until it was tanned very dark. June, soon after entering middle school. The day after we ordered swimsuits for the swimming class that would start next month. That time was the first time I experienced being admitted into a hospital. Just a little before the semester midterms, a day where the rain that started to fall felt awfully cold. In the midst of the pure white sky of the rainy season. In the beginning, everyone in class came to visit me each day. And when I was discharged from the hospital, during the weekends, they would come to my house to play. But that was just the beginning. Fall came. Winter left, hospitalized, discharged, outpatient care, and then starting again with hospitalization. Classmates who were once called friends, at some point became acquaintances, and then turned to strangers. With each turning of the seasons, it seemed that I was disappearing from their memories. This is gonna be a sad game, isn't it? I think it is. Okay, she said her time stopped there. Oh, I guess I could have waited, huh? Stage Nana, Volume 24? 8 years later, 2004, early summer protagonist. Summer, flowing sweat. In the driver's license examination area, a large electronic bulletin board was installed. At once, the lights came on, and like everyone else there, I searched for my own number. I'm guessing this is a guy? 237, 237. Scanning among the mostly lit light panel, I found my own examination number. Because it was just past midday, the train car was quite creepy. And in that empty car, I was on the way home from the examination center. In my left hand was the traffic regulations manual I had just received. In my shirt pocket was the brand new license. With this, I'm also normally licensed, eh? I murmured somewhat seriously, but didn't feel any particular strong emotion. It's not like I wanted to drive cars, nor did I really have another purpose in mind. It was just people around me were going to the training center, and had recommended that I at least get a driver's license. That night, when I reported to my parents that I'd gotten my license, "Is that so?" was the short reply. As an experiment, I tried saying that I wanted to borrow the car, and just as shortly, came a "you can't." It wasn't like I'd wanted to drive the car, but the responses were exactly as I'd imagined. They were those sort of parents. The next day, upon waking up, my chest hurt, and so I was taken to the hospital. Normally, I had a little to do with things involving sickness. That was why waiting in the initial waiting room felt extremely boring. Finally, just when I thought the examination was over, this time I went to take x-rays and blood tests, was made to go. On top of that, for a long, long time, I was made to wait in boredom. Without noticing, I had finished 3 books of jump manga that was in the waiting room and was reaching for a 4th. And just like that, I was made to do the paperwork for being admitted to the hospital. The brand new driver's license that still lay in my shirt pocket. It looked like the time for its debut was a ways off. Okay. Protagonist 2004 Autumn. Around when those very noisy cicadas had stopped crying. As usual, I was in the hospital. Of course, it wasn't like I was always admitted in the hospital, but I would be in and out. Last month, I had my first experience with surgery. After being discharged, I commuted 5 minutes for outpatient care by scooter. And even from then on, admitted, discharged, outpatient care, gradually moving to being admitted again. I didn't know anything about PET or ERESA, I guess, PET or ERESA, but I noticed through the shortcomings and goings that a number of months had passed. In exchange with my decreasing appetite, the types and amounts of drugs increased. I could see with my own eyes that my strength was declining. My legs felt a bit thin, but that's not your imagination, the needle on the scale would tell me. And yet, I was looking at myself somehow objectively. As if watching a stranger, like looking at a single scene on television. The sudden things that happened to my body, my head couldn't keep up with them. The feeling that was happening was real, didn't arise. And so, even though it was supposed to be my own body, I could only watch myself from afar with cold eyes. Winter. Around when Christmas trees were disappearing from the streets. Perhaps it was due to it being the end of the year, but I was allowed to return home. In the end, it seemed to only to be temporary, but even then, I was a bit happy. In the mix of rain and sleet, I returned home for the first time in a while. For some reason, everyone in the family was gathered. Even though my parents normally didn't speak much, while being a bit stiff, they smiled at me. The little sister who I always argued with made my favorite cream stew and fried shrimp. We sat next to each other in the kotatsu. They peeled mandarins for me. They were excessively kind. That was the impression it left. During this time, I had just a bit of realization. Still left in the pocket, that brand new license. That license, without giving rise to any practical value, might expire. While having stiff, unnatural smiles directed at me, calmly, vaguely, rather simply, I thought of that, as if thinking of someone else. The new year came, and I returned again to the hospital. For some reason, on that day, I didn't go to the 4th floor, but instead to a conference room. Was made to go. There, with my father and a doctor, I heard many things. Was made to listen. It was that thing called notification, probably. They had an extremely indirect way of speaking, but in the end, it seemed like I was going to die. I see. That was why I was only able to reply with that. I couldn't find other words. From when I entered until I left the room, that was all I said. Accepting my answer, the doctor moved the ballpoint pen in his hand. Most likely, it was the paperwork for the hospice. To the very end, he was very businesslike. My father was very much the same. It was such a simple thing. That was my honest impression. And then, between that day and the next, I was changed from the 4th to the 7th floor, from a 6-patient room to a single. And also, the 7th floor itself was a bit different from the other floors. For one thing, the floors were sparkling. The ceilings were much higher, much broader. Inside the rooms, it was extremely clean. The large windows seemed designed to let in lots of sunlight. However, the windows only opened a tiny bit. When I tried measuring, it was just slightly smaller than allowing your head to pass through. The other thing was, the color of the ID bracelets changed. Since the day I was admitted, a vinyl bracelet was wrapped upon my wrist. Upon it was my name and blood type. That color had changed from blue to white. High ceilings, white vinyl bracelets, windows that could only open to 15 centimeters. The day I was transferred to the 7th floor, it was when the boring New Year's programs were still being broadcast. The time I met her for the first time was also the very beginning of the year.
Narcissu.
Narcissu? That's how you say that?
冬7回
Okay, sure. Sorry, I pronounced the game wrong. Across the hall, facing the nurse's station, was a lounge-like place. Left in that unpopulated place were a number of sofas, folding chairs, and a large television. On that 28-inch CRT, a meaningless New Year's program was running. Watching that boring television with an equally bored expression was some girl. She had a small build and wore pink pajamas. Her wrist had, just like I did, a white bracelet. Hair that was to her hips left an impression. Hey you, is that interesting? There wasn't any particular deep meaning. Since there was no one around, I tried speaking to her profile.
別に
That was all she replied with. She didn't even turn towards me, even though I'd spoken to her. Perhaps she had absolutely no interest in me. She continued to gaze at the television with a bored look. If it's boring, you don't have to watch it. As I thought that, I also sat down in a folding chair. And sitting next to her, I gazed at the television. There was nothing else to do. Nothing else I could do. Quietly, we continued to gaze at the television. On the screen were the usual New Year's programs, pathetic impersonations and parlor tricks. Occasionally ringing out, the host's stupidly high-pitched laugh. It was the pure white, sunlit room. It dryly reverberated.
ねえあなた
Suddenly, the girl spoke to me while still gazing at the television.
あなた何回目
Which time? What does that mean?
ここに7階に来たの
Sorry, I don't understand the meaning of the question.
そう初めてなんだね
It seemed that my inability to understand what she was saying, she had had up and gotten satisfied with that judgment.
他に誰もいないし私の役目だから
What? Duty.
そういうルールなの
While nodding, she added that there's a rule for someone to teach people who first come here to the 7th floor. Even now, I understood nothing. And as if ignoring me, the girl slowly began speaking.
それじゃあよく聞いてね
The girl's words came by ones and twos. They were slightly different compared to the doctor's speech that I had heard up until coming here. In that business-like speech from the doctor, it was said that this was a place to await the advancement of medicine. It was also called a place for healing the heart. Most likely, broadly speaking, that was probably correct. However, from what that girl said, that was a facade. This 7th floor was within the hospital, but was the only place that didn't give treatments. Simply, a place to wait for the end of life. That's what the girl said. That's what I also felt and had the same perception.
私2回目だから
Second time? What's that?
ここに来るの
And the girl taught me. This place called the 7th floor. To be here from the moment of admission, all the way until undying, first of all, apparently didn't happen. Even if being cured was impossible, if your health becomes better, then they would allow you to come to go home once. But after a while, and it turns bad, and once again you come back. Among those comings and goings, you eventually die. The place where life ran out. It only differed between home and the 7th floor. Without fail, one would die in either of those. It seemed that no one has ever escaped that. It was with that meaning that the girl had meant by saying it was her second time.
じゃあ一度しか言わないからここからはよく聞いて
Okay? Still looking at the dull screen, the girl continued speaking even more. The subject being not about what time the lights would be out and the normal sorts of topics exchanged between admitted patients. She taught me about totally different things. On the 3rd time, you're given a temporary discharge. Prepare yourself. There's never a 4th. You won't be going home anymore. If there's a time that you want to run away, go not to Station A, but towards Station B. Don't eat anything. That is the shortest path. It will end with the least burden on your family. It was only full of these sorts of topics that gives one pause. Most likely, it was something only for the people who came here. Through just those who participated in moving towards death, these were the things that had continued to be passed down. Was the duty you mentioned earlier this?
ええそうよいつかあなたも初めて来た人には伝えて
And that's why the window's only open so your head can fit through. With those final words, the girl slowly stood up. Gently, her long hair swayed and brushed the tip of my nose.
じゃあ検温の時間だから
And then, just like that, with her back facing me, she began walking towards the hall. And I was left alone in that place, with the laughing voice from the screen, and the white flowers decorating around the window. In the end, the girl never once looked in my direction. Whew! From then, when a few days had passed, finally, the New Year's programs ended, and soon the 3rd terms of middle and high school would be starting. Today in the lounge, once more, the figures of the girl and I were staring at the television. It's boring, isn't it?
そうね
The word came back in reply, but both of us were conversing while continuing to gaze at the screen. Hey, is this place always like this?
質問の意味がわからない
I meant how there's no one around. Nurses, doctors, and to add to that, helpers. If you take them out, then aside from our own caregivers, I've never seen anyone else. I guess it's because it's New Year's?
その理由を知りたいの
No, it's not like I meant that.
じゃあ言わない
An exchange that wasn't even a conversation. We indifferently exchanged back and forth. A slight breeze came from the windows that couldn't open more than 15 centimeters. Occasionally, it would sway the girl's hair and, in the same way, would sway the white flowers decorating around the windows. The two of us, while watching the boring television, were only spending days passing time. Oh, the two of you were in a place like this. Saying that while rushing up was an elderly nurse. From just glancing at the nursing station once in a while, this person seemed to be the chief of the 7th floor. So, Setsumi-san, you don't have a fever.
大丈夫出てない
Setsumi. Apparently, this was the girl's name. You can't be roaming around outside without permission anymore, okay? Alright? Everyone gets worried.
別にいいよ
My, what kind of statement is that? Really, girls these days, there's just no helping them. And for a while more, the nurse continued scolding. To that, the girl called Setsumi, let it go by with an indifferent expression. As if ignoring the somewhat noisy nurse, she continued watching the boring screen. Well, later I'll be coming to take a blood sample, alright? With those final words, once again the nurse returned back to the nurse's station. Hey, you... I can call you Setsumi, right? Wrapped around the girl's wrist was the white vinyl bracelet. While looking at the blood type and name there, I asked, Is something wrong, Setsumi?
どうして呼び捨てなの？
Setsumi-san, I'm sorry. What?
年下のくせに。
Oh, she's a little sassy. Hey, why is it that I'm the younger one?
別に。そう思っただけ。
It wasn't that I was upset by the word younger. It was just, no matter how you looked at it, no one would believe I was 5, 6 years older. That was just why I took out that license that was in my chest pocket and showed it to her. How about it? Even though I look like this, I'm 20, you know.
やっぱり年下よ。
Really? With just a glance at the license, the girl gave only that reply. Hey, I don't really get it.
どうでもいいじゃない。少し上なだけよ。
As always, the girl spoke softly with no expression. Those eyes, while looking at the boring television, I felt that they were also looking at someplace far away. When the morning temperature taking ended, I got into the elevator, trying not to be seen by the nurses. Coming to the first floor, deliberately passing through the entrance for outpatients, and I just kept walking out of the hospital. The destination was the place I was taught before, not the nearby station A, but the far station B. It wasn't like I was planning on running away. The 7th floor or home. There was no one who died outside of those two. Before, that was what I heard. It also seemed that the girl, called Setsumi, had also gone many times to Station B. That was why, for no real reason, I simply felt like wanting to go see that place once. It's not like there's guards around. Even so, us residents of the 7th floor were different from other admitted patients. While also thinking about the but maybe, I continued walking on the street to the early morning station area. Glancing into hurrying commuters and people going to school, I slowly moved at a measured pace. After walking a while, about 25 minutes, I finally arrived before the station. In terms of bus stops, it was about four's distance. I think I also said butt stops. In a way, there's quite a bit of people around. That was the first impression upon seeing Station B. Because my clothes were pajamas, I stood out somewhat. However, if just like this, I bought a train ticket, I felt I could, without a single problem, go anywhere. Why was it not Station A, but the Station B that was recommended? I didn't know. However, if one were planning to run away, I thought it was a simple thing. Certainly, the girl who was also supposed to have come many times, but why was she still remained in the 7th floor even now, I wonder? Oh, the translation is getting a little off where my reading is. Early morning before the station. While watching the people hurry by, suddenly, that thought occurred to me. That night, after the lights had been turned off, holding onto a book of manga, unable to sleep, I wandered around that ward alone. I don't know which translation is better, so I'm really just winging it. Okay, normally, wandering around after the lights out would get one scolded badly, but us residents of the 7th floor were given a relative amount of freedom. And with the lights off, the usual lounge was pitch dark. There, I saw her figure. Hey, today you're looking outside. In the dark room, there was a response, but that face remained looking beyond the window. Immediately, I started talking about what happened during the day. That reminds me, this morning, I went all the way to the station. Just like you told me, I went to see Station B.
そう。
But the girl's response was no different from the usual. Because she was supposed to have gone before, I thought that there might have been some kind of reaction, but thinking about that, as well as how she still remained here, did it mean that she really had no intention of running away?
私、もうすぐ帰れるの。
Oh yeah? Eh? Suddenly, the girl opened her mouth. Words as if she had been clear, words as if she had seen clear through my heart just now.
でも次で3回目だからもう会えないかもね。
That's right. Most likely, when she said that she would be able to go home, she was talking about a temporary discharge. In this place called the 7th floor, being admitted more than 3 times, it apparently never happened. Especially, unlike the elderly, when considering the rate of progression of disease, it was even more so for younger patients like us. With that kind of meaning, came the words, "We won't meet again."
ね、あなたはどちらを選ぶの？
Choose what?
どっちで死ぬつもりってこと？
Suddenly, hearing the word death, my words caught for just a moment. Well, I haven't thought about it yet.
そう。まだ1回目だもんね。
The girl spoke in a lonely murmur. Of course, I knew I couldn't be here forever. Like everyone else, going in and out of the hospital, slowly weakening, until someday. In the end, either the 7th floor or surrounded by thin smiles, it would come to a choice between those two, probably.
私は家は嫌。だけどここも嫌。
Then, what will you do?
別にどうもしない。自力で歩けるうちにどこかに行くだけ。
Are we gonna run off? Somewhere? You? Even though it was obvious that if one wanted to run away, one could, this girl still remained on the 7th floor. When I thought about that, do you have some other place to go?
あなた、私を引き止めたいの？
Eh?
それとも一緒についてきたいの？
No, I didn't mean it like that.
じゃあ聞かないで。
While gazing out the window, the girl spoke indifferently. As always, it had been a conversation where she did not even look in my direction. However, just that time, I saw that her usual expressionless profile seemed sad. Taught that the 3rd temporary discharge would be the last, the first time I've come to the 7th floor. And then, a girl who would soon face her 2nd time. For me, I still couldn't really feel things that were happening in reality, but someday, would I also come to make such a face? From before dawn, rain fell. Occasionally, also changing to either sleet or snow, it lightly continued coming down. Within that, I was in the usual place watching the television. As always, the 7th floor was devoid of people.
面白い。
She came to you! Nope, boring. The girl came from the other side. Exchanging only those words, she quietly sat in the folding chair next to me. And then, today also, the two of us began gazing at the television. Surely, this girl was also the same. There was nothing else to do, nothing else she could do. Surprisingly, she responded to something on the television. Something the matter?
別に。
The words were the same, not particularly, but it was a response that was different from usual for the girl. Becoming interested, I turned my eyes to the screen. What was on the screen was some kind of nature scene. On a beautiful hill, trees and flowers blended into a landscape. And focused onto the screen were a great many white flowers. They were flowers I remembered seeing before. They resembled the white flowers, even now decorating the room by the windows. Are those the same flower? Look, aren't they exactly like these? While speaking, I pointed first at the screen and then towards the window.
種類は同じだけど厳密に言えば違う。
Giving just a glance at the flowers by the window, the girl once again returned to gazing at the television while answering. To say the truth, even if she denied that they were the same to me, I didn't know the difference between the two. And anyways, for me, whether the flowers were the same or different, it didn't really matter. Instead of that, the girl normally would never participate in conversation. That girl surprisingly continued with her words. That was why I also tried to maintain the conversation. Are you maybe knowledgeable about this sort of thing?
別に
Really? But I can't tell the difference. The white flowers blooming beyond the screen, the flowers in the vases beyond the girl's profile. While vaguely looking at both of them, I continued further with my words. So these are orchids or lilies? Look, they've got a whitish color, right? Even though I had no interest, I managed to continue speaking. However, the girl soon became like usual and fell silent. With the usual expression, she only gazed at the boring screen. And when I had given up on the possibility that she would take up the conversation, and once again began to move my eyes back to the television.
Narcissu.
Oh, it's a flower. Eh?
Narcissu よ。
While answering, for the first time, she faced me, swaying her long waist-length hair while pointing at the flower shown on the television. She looked at me. Just like the flowers displayed on the screen, there was a white vinyl bracelet wrapped around her wrist with white skin. The first time that I saw that face, I thought I saw the briefest of smiles. Oh! So is that it? The silver coupe? Did we do that? I don't think so. Hang on, I think I clicked on the wrong one. Can we go back? Hang on. I guess I'll save. Yes, just to be safe. But let's return to the title, because I don't know if that was the prologue, and let's try this other translation though, shall we? Voiced. Chapter 1, the 7th floor. Did we do this one already?
冬7回
I think we did. I believe this is all the same. Okay, yeah, we already did this. Sorry, I don't know how this game works. For a second I was like, maybe I did the wrong thing. Okay. A few days passed and the winter became even more serious. Out in the world was the middle of what was called the examination season. As always, the two of us were watching the television today. It's boring, isn't it?
そうね
The exchange couldn't even be called a conversation. There were the days where two of us only meaningly passed the time. Speaking of which, for you, when was it?
今日よ
I see. It's today, eh? Here, the today we spoke about was what she had told me before, her temporary discharge.
もう会えないかもね
Hmm? Ah, that's right. Even if she were once again to return to the 7th floor, just once more was probably the limit. And that time, I would surely be coming and going between home and this place. For the two of us, that a timing existed for us to meet again was quite unthinkable.
あなた決まった
That which do you want to die at thing? No, not yet.
そう
She nodded in a slightly lonely way. That expression was probably because she was someone going on their second temporary discharge. While I'd yet to realize things, the doctors have not discussed my first temporary discharge. That reminds me. In the end, did she decide on her own answer for herself?
説明支度できたわよ。
Coming here and speaking was some older lady. Most likely, it was the girl's mother. To me, since I was sitting next to her, the mother bowed her head slightly.
じゃあ、そろそろ行くけど、用意はいい？うん。それでは、失礼します。
Once again, giving me a small bow, the lady made to leave the place. And then, she stretched out her hand to the girl that was her daughter. But the girl didn't make to leave the place. Even when her mother tugged on her hand, for some reason, she didn't make to stand from the folding chair.
どうかしたの？説明。少し苦しい。え？苦しいってどこが？胸？お腹？胸。ちょっと待ってなさい。すぐに先生呼んでくるから。
In a rush, making a slapping sound with her guest slippers, the lady ran toward the nurse's station. Left in that place was the girl still hunched over in the folding chair, and me. Her condition or its progression, I knew absolutely nothing about. The things that I knew were, her name was Setsumi, blood type O, the only things that were on that white bracelet. However, we were residents of the 7th floor, and at the least, she was worse than me. Say, until the doctor comes, wanna lie down there? As I spoke, I pointed to the couch. It was something that was placed in a corner of the room from before. Look, I'll support your back.
別に。もう平気よ。
With just that reply, she quickly stood up on her own. Hey, you... Don't force yourself. Faster than I could finish, quickly, she walked out into the hall. I wonder if she was pretending, so she didn't have to go home. Night, after the lights were put out. As always, holding a book of manga, unable to sleep, I wandered around the hospital. And then, with the lights off, the pitch-dark lounge. There, I found her figure. Yo, you here again? What's wrong? Feeling bad again?
別に。
While looking out the window, that was all the girl replied with. In the end, it seemed that the girl's temporary discharge had been postponed. With that, I didn't know when the next opportunity would be, but most likely the postponement was not a few days, but weeks. Say, I'm just wondering, but today, were you faking sickness? Well, the term faking sickness itself might have been a bit strange, since, after all, we couldn't really be said to be in a normal condition. The important thing is, you didn't want to go on temporary leave.
意味がわからないわよ。
Well, you won't have to go anymore after, right? To that question, she remained silent and gave no reply. From before, she'd repeatedly asked me which place I planned to die in. And to that, I had not decided, while that girl said she didn't like home or the 7th floor. You really don't have another place to go to, do you?
だったらどうなのよ。
No, nothing. In the usual lounge, now pitch dark. As always, without even looking my way, the girl sat, looking out the window. Even though it was still 11 o'clock, in this place called the hospital, most of the lights were already out. This place was where ordinary and extraordinary days met. Moreover, we were the residents of the 7th floor. Already, we could choose nothing outside of the 7th floor and home. From that dark 7th floor window, the girl continued looking out at the outside world. The ordinary world. Still, the buildings and houses shone brightly with light. The roads home were filled with the figures of people hurrying home. I myself had only barely realized my situation, But already, I was a resident of the 7th floor, a person of the extraordinary world. Probably, I was already unable to return to that other world. The me whose time has stopped. Numerous seasons, white overcast skies, pass without even the need to exchange words with anyone. In the beginning, from the window I watched lively children go to school, people walking quickly. When I tired of that, I always watched the television. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Even if outside the window was snowing, the screen had the sun. Without cold, heat, or pain, a dream would spread before my eyes. I sought peace in imaginations. I only greatly increased my knowledge, simply accumulating more and more meaningless trivia. At some point, the things on the television lost their reality. Next, in books, in games, and then family. Finally, even my own body. As if I was watching some stranger, I lost the ability to understand it as real. That was why, when I came to the 7th floor, I wasn't surprised. If I closed my eyes, always the world would disappear. That's why I thought I was fine with it, made myself think I was fine. And soon, I would be discharged a second time. The next time I come here, I might not be able to walk on my own. Even though I knew that, I felt my unresisting self to be wretched. I felt myself, who didn't even have a destination, to be ridiculous.
時間を止め、心を止め、胸に大きな傷跡を作り、それでも22年も生きてきたのに哀れだと思った。
Okay. After a few days more, the cloudy days ended yesterday, and the high winter sky spread wide. Surprisingly, my father came to visit. In the beginning, he had a pained look on his face. However, he had said something about my insurance. At that time, his eyes weren't sad. Well, I have to talk a bit with the doctor. Saying that, my father went down the hall. He seemed to be heading to that place from before, the gloomy conference room. Once again, I was alone in the hospital room. With nothing to do, I stretched my hands out to the weekly magazines bought for me from the store. They were there along with the fruits and juice that he always brought when visiting, next to the basket with fruit inside, just in front of the melons that I hated. What came into view were car keys. Shining silver keys. It was the coupe father was so proud of, with the interior he apparently had modified. Before, I had asked on a whim to borrow it and had been quickly turned down. It was the keys to that car. And in my pajamas chest pocket, that driver's license. That day, even though it's lost its debut, I'd continued to carry the license. It was the proof of my once ordinary days. Silently, I grasped the keys. It was just when I did it. I just went and did it. Even I didn't know the exact reason why. Simply, I just did that. It was like watching a single scene on the television somewhere. Then, taking a few days' worth of medicine that I had been given, I just placed them in a bag from a convenience store and headed down the hall. Slipping by the nurse's station, I quickly continued to walk towards the elevator. In my right hand, a plastic bag. In my left hand, the car keys. In my chest pocket, the license that was supposed to have lost its debut hid. In front of the lounge, the next thing that came into the sight was the figure of the girl, as always, watching the television. Sitting in the cheap folding chair, today she was also boredly looking at the screen. Hey you, is that interesting?
そう見える。
Nope, not at all. The usual exchange. Her eyes were, as usual, seemingly looking far away. Well then, Shall we go together?
え
While showing her the car key in my hand, I continued speaking. I also don't like home.
私は7階も嫌
So, shall we go together?
うん
Aww. With that word, the girl stood up from the folding chair. Lightly, her long hair swayed and brushed the tip of my nose. And so, the girl packed a few days' worth of medicine into a plastic bag. Then, the two of us placed the 7th floor behind us. I turned off the boring television. The shrilly laughing voice of the host was silenced. The two of us, in pajamas, got on the elevator and descended from the highest floor to the first. When we came to the first floor, instead of the entrance for emergencies, normal admittance and discharges, we deliberately left from the outpatient entrance and headed to the parking lot. The moment we left the building, the cold winter blast struck us in the face. In the parking lot, with a few obstructions, the wind felt even stronger. Together, while peering around cautiously, we walked around the parking lot. Then, after searching a while, we finally found Dad's car. A silver coupe. The car Dad was so proud of that he even changed the interior. Quickly, I inserted the key and opened the door. Hey, you can get in.
分かった
I sank myself into the deep driver's seat. For the girl in the passenger seat, because of her height, even if she sat normally, it was difficult for her to see the front. Next, I put the key in my hand into the ignition, and as I turned it, stepped on the accelerator. It was all exactly like what the training center had taught. In moments, the sound of the engine reverberated in the interior. After that, release the parking brake and just let go of the clutch. You're driving a manual? Wow. With this, we can go anywhere. Should be able to go anywhere. Well, here we go. The girl gave a small nod, and in response, I shifted into second gear. And quietly, the car set off. As the chassis rattled from the unfamiliar clutch, slowly it went on.
揺れるわね
Ah, it's the first time in this car after all. And while we're on the subject, it's the first time driving since getting my license.
そう
Eventually, it appeared before us, the hospital parking lot exit. Just beyond it was a large road. I pulled the car out onto the lightless intersection. From behind came the sound of car horns blaring at us as we suddenly pulled into the lane. The unfamiliar clutch ground when the gears shifted, while the silver coupe ran in fits and starts. Perhaps the cars behind were especially angry. It didn't seem like they would stop honking for a while. Even so, without paying them any particular mind, I drove. The feeling of reality was somehow thin. Hey, you...
何
Are you afraid?
怖がった方がいい
No, not really. Still morning, the sun was high. Looking beyond the windshield, the January winter sky was painted so blue, it somehow felt sorrowful. It wasn't like we had a destination. That day under the winter sky, the car swayed with the unfamiliar clutch. That day, in our pajamas, the two of us aimed for the national road. That winter day. Why does the music have to stop so soon? Around when that was so very high, sun was turning orange. We continued to drive. Simply at random, the car continued running. And then, when the area turned into an unfamiliar place, I'm stopping for a bit. Finally, I brought the car to a stop. Outside of the city area, by the roadside somewhere, a lonely place that didn't seem to have much traffic. Stopping the car in a place I didn't even know the name of, I started inspecting the interior. If there were things that would even be the slightest bit useful. We'd rushed out without any preparation, but I could see that we would be in trouble very soon. While thinking about that, first, I searched the dashboard in front of me. There really isn't much there. Just a few hundred yen worth of what appeared to be change from the expressways. The rest were just a few books of manga and a disposable camera. It wasn't like we had a destination, but it seemed that the navigation system installed in the car was broken too. And also, the amount of money I had was about 8,000 yen. While leaving, I had hurriedly stuffed my life savings into my pocket. With that, adding the change in front of me, it barely made 9,000 yen. Of course, it wasn't like I'd been expecting to find anything in the car from the start. But with this budget, we'd probably be in trouble really soon. I could definitely believe that we wouldn't be finding a decent lodging. Even saying that, I doubt the girl had any money. No, it's nothing. Oh well, it didn't matter. I should have known this from the start. To begin with, it wasn't like we had thought up arrangements or plans before acting. Instead of that, right now I wanted to move. I didn't want to sit still. Under the now darkening sky, once again the silver coupe ran. By the way, are you hungry? As I drove, I spoke to the one sitting next to me. Thinking about it, we hadn't eaten since this morning. For now, let's go to a convenience store. Yeah. Hey, don't be so picky. Compared to the seventh floor's food, it absolutely has to be better. At my words, the girl returned silence. To those downcast eyes, their line of sight was on the pink pajamas that she wore. Ah, now that you say it, that's right. As I spoke, I looked down at my own clothes. Certainly, in these pajamas, wherever we went, we'd stand out too much. It wasn't like it was fine in the car either, but in any case, we had to do something about these clothes. Making that decision, I turned the wheel from the main road and headed into town. After running a while, the place that we came to was some street I didn't know the name of. Surely it must be near some station, since it was a street where there was a good number of people to be seen. In a place like this, you'd think there'd be one? While glancing around the area searching, I moved the car on, slightly raising my body in the seat while driving. Found one. In a short while, I spotted a coin-operated laundromat. It appeared quite run down and was the first floor of a small apartment building. This place might just be perfect. A short distance away from the entrance, I parked the car. Alright, just wait a bit. Leaving the girl, who was making a puzzled face, I headed for the coin-op laundromat on foot. You gonna steal clothes? Just past the automatic doors, my nose picked up the scent of bleach and detergent. Inside, it was just as run down as the exterior, filled with old washing machines and dryers. There's no one around. I muttered those words in the empty shop. There, raising a low sound while spinning, was a single unit in use. Quickly approaching that machine, I started to check the timer. It looked like 200 yen had been inserted and was set for 30 minutes. Also, it had been going for only 5 minutes. Most likely, until it was about done, the person was passing time somewhere. With that deduction, once again from the entrance, I looked around for someone that seemed to be that sort of person. Then, making sure no one was in sight, I placed my hand on the revolving dryer's door, and suddenly opened it. In the middle of a drying cycle, the machine was forced into a stop temporarily. Ignoring the blast of heat and damp air, I took out a mass of half-drying clothes from the inside. Then carrying it like that in both hands, I looked around once more before I put the shop behind me. Seeing both my hands filled with laundry, the girl raised a bit of a surprised voice. However, paying no heed to that, I threw them into the back seat. Well, we're going. Vroom vroom! With one hand on the wheel, I eyed the pile of laundry I had thrown in the back. At a glance, there it was, all flashy-looking jeans and sweatshirts. All the sizes seemed to be on the large side. They were still wet, but inside the car, with the heat from the vents, it'd probably be dry soon. Later, change into something you like. For those words came no particular reply. She simply looked at the pile of laundry. Well, what else could we do?
わかってるわよ。
Even for me, it wasn't like I did it because I liked it. The money that we held wasn't like we were sent on an errand with it. However, with what we had on hand now, buying new clothes would have been a tight situation. When the face of the moon really came out, and we had driven for a while, I stopped the car near some park somewhere. It was most likely some kind of children's park, tucked in the middle of a residential neighborhood. In the middle of that, I began to search for the clothes stolen earlier. Most likely because of the heating in the car, the laundry was totally dry. I wish it would do that, are you kidding me? Looks like it really is all guy stuff. Exactly as when I had glanced at them, it was all gaudy jeans and sweats. Most likely it was someone about my age, and size-wise, something close. And then, while still sitting in the driver's seat, I grabbed a pair of suitable jeans and sweatshirts and started to change. Hey, you should change into something too.
これも大きすぎる。
Then you're gonna always be in pajamas?
わかった。
With a reluctant reply, the girl took hold of her pair of jeans and opened the door. Hey, where are you going?
着替えてくる。
With just that answer, she began walking towards the restroom that could be seen in the park just ahead. Hey there, that was quick. In moments, the girl returned. The pink pajamas that she'd been wearing up until now was in her hand, and she had changed into jeans and some white sweatshirt. Well, it's good that you managed to put something on. There was no reply. It was something I saw coming. The size was too much and draped rather heavily on her. Since the jeans were too long, the legs were rolled up a number of times, while the top sweatshirt was in the same way folded over.
パジャマのままの方が良かった。
Oh, well, don't say that. It's a bit warmer this way. At my words, she gave me just the slightest dissatisfied look. I guess something more feminine would have been better.
別に。
The girl's usual response. Even though I thought she was dissatisfied with the poofy sweatshirt on, soon she returned to being expressionless. Zah! The sound of rain pouring from the skies. Suddenly, it started raining. As if it had forgotten how to stop, rain spilled from the cold January sky. Looking from inside the car, countless raindrops on the windshield. One by one, they would grow too big to stick. A number would gather, overflow, and run into a rivulet. Did you change though? I mean, she went and changed, but when did you change? Then, while flowing down, they would involve other rivulets and flow even more. The two of us just sat gazing at that sort of rain from inside the car. In some parking lot somewhere, a lonely place in the mountains. Having finished shopping at a convenience store, we were spending the night. On the menu for each of us, 2 nigiri, 500 milliliters of pokari, and half an order of fries. It's been a while since having this stuff, eh? With one hand holding the convenience store nigiri, the girl murmured. Thinking about it normally, it wouldn't be all that splendid, but compared to the food on the 7th floor, it was good enough. And then, when both of us reached out towards the fries, suddenly the girl's hand stopped. Is something wrong?
別に。
While answering, her line of sight turned towards the whitely fogged windshield. There by the roadside, a number of white flowers could be seen. White flowers soaked by the rain. I didn't know whether they were planted by someone or were there naturally, but those flowers seemed familiar. Those were Narcissu.
ナルキソス。水仙のことよ。
Oh, okay. Ah, those were daffodils. I didn't know too much about plants and all, but daffodils, I had at least heard the name before. And I also recalled that even though the girl would normally speak only rarely, she would uncharacteristically join in a conversation on this topic. That's why I went along and continued to speak. And I guess these are different from those two?
厳密には違う。
They're quite rare things then, aren't they?
別にどこにでもあるわよ。
Everywhere? Like where? For me, it wasn't like I put very much meaning into the statement. It was intended simply from the flow of conversation as a natural question. And yet, she thought for a moment, and then slowly opened her mouth.
西
West?
淡路島が有名。
Okay. Hey, wait. Awajishima? You mean... Just how far away do you think that is from here? For someone who had only just started driving like me, I couldn't even make a guess. Most likely, it was easily around 700 kilometers, and even using the expressways, I couldn't even begin to imagine the time it would take. First thing, considering our funds, it certainly didn't seem enough. Even if we stayed off the expressways and used smaller roads, the cost of gasoline itself was ominous. Look, don't say unreasonable things right now. There's no way we could go to such a place, right?
誰が行きたいなんて言ったの？
Eh?
問われたから答えただけ。
With just that answer, the girl once again gazed beyond the windshield at those flowers. The glass inside the car, cold from the rain, was fogged white. She cast her gaze beyond even that. It wasn't as if I wanted to go there also. However, it wasn't also as if we had another place to go. Okay, you know what? That's actually a really good place to stop it. Can I save on the menu? Apparently not. Uh-oh. Did I do bad? I think I did bad. Are we good? Maybe? Okay, good. It remembers that chapter 3. So we'll start chapter 3 in the next episode, but I like this so far. It's very interesting. A lot of reading from me, and it's not really a game per se, much more visual novel, but with no choices. So I don't know how it's gonna go. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and like it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next MAMJ. Let's play. I think this is new? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is all new. Costumes, skeletons, and devils. Cheerleaders from the Smells Like Teen Spirit video. One girl dressed as Jackie Kennedy. Psycho House Girl. The coolest stuff about being a Psycho House Girl. Cool thing, everybody in the hall thinking you don't seem to know they're looking at you and whispering as you walk past. Because I guess I haven't heard of peripheral... What? That's a lie to mom and dad situation, but it was so worth it. The girls on stage were just so loud and real and awesome, and everybody was moving together like one huge tide of sound. So that was the concert she went to?